Salty dog. Oh, there we go. That's the cloud recording. And now let's get it on Facebook. Let's hope this works. We tested it this week, so it should work.
And do you need some time at the end for any other details?
No, everything else will be in the chat.
Oh, no.
It says it's streaming.
Again.
No, it says it's streaming. Again. It says it's streaming live on Facebook.
No way.
Yep.
Like on the Facebook page, you see?
Yep, right at the top. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, I'll let everybody in and we can get started. All right. Okay. Welcome everybody to our weekly town hall meeting. Today we're very fortunate to have Lama Roger Walsh with us. And as usual, he will be answering questions. We hope to have about a 10-minute question and answer period at the end of our session. So as you think of any questions, you can send them in the chat. Either just send it to all, or you can send it directly to Dzogchen Foundation. And then we will ask him the questions in the order they're received. And before we get to Lama Raja's teaching, Menla would just like to make a couple announcements about upcoming events. Menla?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining Lama Raja today. And just so that you know, he will be with us on our annual summer retreat, which will be July 23rd through 25th, and doing some teaching. So I hope you will be able to join us for that. But before that, we have our next Ask the Lama session this coming Wednesday evening that you can sign up for, and then our one-day retreat on June 5th. Ben will put all that in the chat for you, and hope to see you at some of these upcoming events. So thank you, Lama Roger. Take it away.
Well, welcome everyone. Let's just take a moment to reflect on the miracle of what's happening right now. We have how many people? 60, 70 people here, apparently some 500 on Facebook, gathered together from around the world to share Dharma. I mean, this is a whole new era. I mean, just take a moment to reflect that throughout most of history, if you wanted to practice with a Sangha or hear a talk by a Lama, you had to trek across, mountains and valleys, and probably maybe take a couple of days to get there. Take your tent, settle in, get the teachings, do some sitting together, pack up, trek home. And here we are, we hit the Zoom switch and here we all are. What a miracle. Let's just take a moment to feel gratitude for the people who made this possible, the inconceivable network of people who created our computers and this technology and the electricity and if you stop to think about it, at this very moment, what we're doing is the result of a network of who knows how many people's active work and creativity, and that they in turn were dependent on people who made food and prepared food and built their houses and farmed the land and created tractors and trucks. And it's like once you start to think about what we in this moment are the beneficiaries of, you start to realize that if you really allow yourself to open to the full network of people and contributions and beings and the earth that contributed to this, probably the majority of the people on the planet contributed to and in some way were necessary for us to enjoy this moment right now. It's pretty amazing. So let's just take a moment for gratitude. And gratitude's both an attitude and an emotion, and it's such a beautiful, beneficent attitude and emotion. It inhibits painful, destructive emotions like anger and fear. It inhibits greed and jealousy. It fosters a feeling of fullness and well-being. And it reduces the barriers to love. There's a quick way to feel good. Really works to take a moment to be grateful for this moment and all the blessings that are coming to us in this moment. And like all the positive mental qualities, what happens as they arise is they want to be shared. Love wants to be shared. Joy wants to be shared. Happiness. All these emotions want to be shared, to be given away. They don't want to be limited to one mind and a confined space. They naturally seek to expand and to share. So out of our gratitude and the sense of well-being, out of our sense of well-being, we naturally want others to experience well-being. And what the great sages of this and other traditions, of our tradition, but also others, have recognized is that it's wonderful to seek the very best for ourselves in life, and to really reflect on what is a life well lived, what is a good life. And the answers that come from the wisest people in history is the recognition that a life well lived, a truly satisfying life, a full human flourishing requires the cultivation of our hearts and minds so that they become instruments that are available to us that can mature and grow. We can develop greater wisdom and love and compassion and joy and ecstasy and care. And that we, just as all those positive emotions and motives seek to be shared, that we do all this not just for ourselves alone, because that would just reinforce our egos, but rather for the welfare and awakening of all. When you recognize that, you have rediscovered the Bodhisattva aspiration, the aspiration to develop oneself as fully as possible, to cultivate, to awaken as fully as possible, and to cultivate as fully as possible all the benevolent capacities and qualities and beautiful aspects and virtues of heart and mind. So we realize that the Bodhisattva aspiration, the aspiration to become a Buddha, is not just something we chant, wrote, which is a nice idea, but we actually, if we do some reflection, we realize that it's what we most deeply want, and that it's not a sacrifice to aspire to awaken fully and cultivate all one's virtues fully in order to be an optimal instrument of service. At our deepest hearts, when we know who we truly are, we find that that is what we truly want. So the Bodhisattva aspiration becomes a living desire. It's like, oh yes, of course that's what I want. Of course I want to direct my life towards becoming a more awake, a more alive, a more loving, caring, compassionate, joyful human being, a source of well-being for everyone. That's what makes for the most fullest and most satisfying and loving and ecstatic life possible. That is what the great sages discovered, and it's what we discover when we do a little reflection. And then when we do the reflections for ourselves, it becomes a recognition, of course, rather than this nice idea to be crammed on top of other things we think we want. It just becomes a heartfelt aspiration. So knowing that this is what we want, let's ask Ben to put the Refuge and Bodhichitta on our screens. And here we have it. In Buddha, Dharma, and supreme spiritual community, we go for refuge until fully enlightened. By the power of all six perfections, from generosity to non-dual wisdom, for the sake of all beings, may we realize Buddhahood. So, we go for refuge in these three jewels, in the Buddha, the awakened ones. We trust in the Dharma, which means many things, but the teachings, of course, but also the way things are. What a wonderful thing to realize that we can trust in the nature of reality, that we can trust reality. Albert Einstein said the most important question for which he would love to know the answer was, is the universe benign? And the sages of our tradition have a very clear answer, yes. To the extent we are able to align with and eventually become reality, to that extent we find that it is totally supportive. And more than supportive, we find that we are it. And we take refuge in the spiritual community, those people on the path who are committed to these values and who we therefore know we can trust. Because anyone who's dedicated themselves to their own fullest maturation and growth and compassionate heart, that's someone you can trust. And as you trust others, you come to trust yourself. And as you trust yourself, you come to trust others. Doesn't mean you just leave your door unlocked, but you come to a deeper recognition that in their depths, every being aspires to what we do. They may not know it yet. And basically, there are two kinds of people. There are bodhisattvas, and there are those who don't yet know they're bodhisattvas. So we can take refuge in those who've realized the Dharma. We can take, and who know who they really are. We can take refuge in the way things are. And what a relief that is. And we can take refuge in our Sangha, the people who are sharing from around the world this experience with us right now, and the larger Sangha, spiritual community. So we take refuge in these three jewels. It's like a sigh of relief when you get it. It's like, oh, we've all spent a lifetime seeking. We haven't known, in many cases, most cases, what we're seeking. We've tried an awful lot of things. An awful lot of things. And here's what the wisest people who've ever lived say you can trust. And the direction, the most fulfilling direction and most human direction for life. So we can take refuge in these. And we aspire to the fullness of our human life, to the fullness of our humanity, to the recognition of who we really are. So we aspire to realize Buddhahood. May we realize Buddhahood, but not for ourselves alone, for the sake of all beings. And what could be more satisfying? Think about this for a moment. Is there anything that could be more satisfying than to be able to be really effective at relieving the pain and suffering of others and sharing joy with them, helping awaken them from their dreams and nightmares, helping them to come to recognize who they really are, and that who they really are is not only more than they thought, it's more than they can think. To help ourselves and others recognize that what we've spent a lifetime looking for is actually within us in this moment and every moment, just clouded by these temporary disturbed emotions and desires and peaks. So what could be more satisfying than to devote one's life to that? This is to aspire to come to the fullness of our humanity and to cultivate every quality and virtue and beneficent aspect of heart and mind that we can for the welfare and awakening of all beings is the most elevated and encompassing aspiration the human mind has ever conceived. And why would we settle for anything less? So I'm going to invite you now. What we've done so far is we started with gratitude, just taking a moment to appreciate the miracle that we're experiencing right now. Remembering that hitting the Zoom link is not just hitting a Zoom link, it's it's a miracle. And here we are. And then we reflected on what is it that really makes a life worth living? And what do we truly want? And we rediscovered for ourselves what the great sages of this and other traditions have taught us. What is that the best use of a human life, the most satisfying, the most joyful, the most awake and aware and alive is to live to our fullest, cultivating every benevolent quality we have, awakening as fully as we can, contributing and serving as effectively as we can. And that is the Bodhisattva aspiration. So now I'm going to invite you to set the intention, the aspiration, the prayer to become a Buddha in this lifetime, not some eons in the future, but to become a Buddha in this lifetime. The Buddha being the symbol, the archetype of our full humanity, of who we truly are, of our true nature, and of the flowering of all benevolent capacities. So I'm going to invite you in just a moment to set that to either as a prayer or an aspiration or an intention. Set the aspiration to become a Buddha, the highest and most remarkable and fullest and most contributory maturation of a human life that's possible. And as you do, you may become aware of various emotional reactions. This is the highest ideal the human mind can conceive. It may just fill you with ecstasy and joy and realization, yes, but it may also bring up reaction. So I invite you to set this aspiration, this prayer, and you might like to do it not just as I'm going to become a Buddha, but offering yourself to the highest good, offering yourself to the Dharma, knowing that when you realize your Buddhahood, it will be the realization that you are actually an expression of, you are one with reality and expressing reality. So in whatever way makes sense to you, I invite you to set the aspiration for Buddhahood in this lifetime and to be open and aware of any and all reactions that come up. If there's, for example, fear or sense, it might be it's like, oh, of course, or it might be, oh no, that's too much, I can't do it. Just notice and note though any and all reactions that arise and allow them to be there. Let them come into the healing light of awareness. Awareness in and of itself is healing. Awareness is healing and awakening. Okay. So in whatever way feels most true for you, set the dedication to become a Buddha in this lifetime. So set that intention, say that prayer, notice whatever responses arise. Nothing to be done with them, just notice them, see them, accept them, thank them, welcome. You might even say welcome to whatever reactions arise. Welcome. And just, if the mind wanders, bring it back to what you truly want. The aspiration to become the fullest possible you. And as you awaken, help, and heal as fully as possible. Allowing any responses to be there, just welcoming them. No struggle, no strain. Allow yourself to feel into the possibility that you've finally discovered what you most want to do with your life. Allow yourself to feel a sense of relief. You've spent a lifetime looking for satisfaction, looking for what really matters, looking for what will give true meaning to your life. This is the answer. And recognize as you reopen yourself to aspire once again, pray to become a Buddha in this lifetime, that there is no sacrifice in this. You're simply asking to be who you most truly are. You're committing yourself to letting go the limiting beliefs that have kept you imprisoned and constricted. To allow this mind-made chains to fall away, and for the heart and mind to open boundlessly, lovingly, encompassing all, so that all conscious creatures are held within the vast scope of our awareness and the boundless extent of our love. And then what could you possibly want except to help them come to the same ecstatic realization you've discovered? What could possibly be more satisfying and or more meaningful? And doing it all not as a struggle or a should, but out of a recognition, of course this is what I want. Oh, oh wow, all those things I thought I wanted. Wow. Or I thought would give meaning. Okay, this is what does it. A motivation which seeks the highest good for the greatest number of beings, including yourself. So it begins as an intention, an aspiration, as a prayer. As we reflect most deeply, it becomes an oh, of course. And finally, it becomes a spontaneous, effortless, joyful expression of who we now know ourselves to be. And rest and relax. You've made the most profound aspiration a human being can make. But we discover that it's not a teeth-gritting determination. as we open to the implications of this aspiration, we discover it's our deepest desire, a natural expression of who we are, a spontaneous overflow of our own being and well-being. And now just rest. Rest in awareness. Open your eyes if you'd like. Look ahead. Or if you wish, close your eyes for a little while. Be aware of, notice awareness if in and filling the body. Notice awareness in the body. Notice the environment around you. Now notice the body in awareness. And now notice the environment in your awareness. And feel into the outer reaches of awareness. And notice that you can't find any boundaries. But awareness is like the sky. Clear, lucid, boundless. And that like the sky, thoughts and emotions may arise, images, fantasies. But if we don't engage with them, they just pass through and dissipate. If we get caught by them, if we try to bring them closer or push them away, try to change them in any way, that creates karma, conditioning. But if we simply allow them to be, if we welcome whatever experiences arise into awareness, but don't allow attention to be drawn to and into them, then they just dissipate or dissolve by themselves. That is, they do what's called they self-arise and they self-liberate. And every emotional charge, every conditioned reaction, every karmic arising that arises into the open space of awareness and with which we don't engage is liberated. It deconditions. We become free of that little piece of charge of reactivity because we didn't get caught by the reactivity and we didn't add further reactivity to it. Now, of course, usually we do get caught by what arises in the mind. We've spent a lifetime hypnotized, self-hypnotized by our own minds. And the process of awakening is recognizing what occurs in the mind as it actually is, not mistaking a fantasy about being angry with someone for actually being angry, not mistaking a thought, I'm bad, for reality. Not mistaking a passing emotion of sadness for I'm a depressed person. And not mistaking the thought I'm scared for a reality that I'm a fearful person. All these ways in which we usually self-hypnotize ourselves. But by meditation, by resting in awareness, all these things can arise and be kind of an interesting sideshow. But it's a challenge not to get caught, so let's take just a couple of minutes to do a particular specific practice. Notice again the body in awareness, the environment in awareness, that there is and you are this boundless sphere of lucid, transparent, wakeful awareness. And allow yourself, take a moment to turn up the volume on the wakefulness. Be really present now. You may think you were present before, but you can be more present. Really, really here. There are degrees of wakefulness, and we can, just by a little flip of intention, we can become really awake at this moment. And now from this place of being awareness, really awake awareness, just allow yourself to notice any movement of mind. So you're not trying to identify particular thoughts or feelings, just any movement of mind. Just notice it, let it happen, but rest as awareness. Just letting the mind move, recognizing you're not the mind. We usually think we're the mind, but we're not. We're the awareness behind it. Or the awareness that encompasses it, embraces it. The mind moves and we just witness. Oh. And notice that as awareness, there's no need to react. If we get lost into a thought or an image or fantasy or feeling, we will feel compelled. We'll feel driven. We'll feel we have to react and act and move and defend ourselves. That's self-hypnosis. But as awareness, we can simply rest as awareness. And when you're ready, I invite you to bring your awareness back to the screen and the people while holding the screen in awareness. This is arising within awareness. And you have now dedicated your life to the highest good, to becoming the fullest possible human that you can, to contributing to the welfare and awakening of all conscious creatures in whatever way you can, to relieving suffering in ways, most ways are quite small and humble, to sharing joy, to responding with love, wishing well to every person and conscious creature. So take a look at your screen and see these people from around the world and recognize that every single one of them has just dedicated their life to your well-being. Every single one of these people, you're welcome to scroll through the community. Every single one of these people has dedicated their life to your awakening and well-being, to relieving any pain you feel, to loving you as fully as they can, to healing any suffering that they can heal, and to helping you become the fullest human being and Buddha you possibly can. That's why we trust in the Sangha. That's why we can know we can trust in the community of people on the path. Because every single one of these people wishes you the very best they can conceive of for you. And they've committed their lives to contributing in whatever way they can to your well-being and awakening. So you might want to just keep in mind as you go about your day that there's this network of people from around the world who are committed to your well-being. And our community, but many, many communities like this. It's like a secret club. Oh, yeah. Let's see, would anyone like to share their experience, a comment or question? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lama Roger. We do have a question. Eddie asks, is there a question that we can ask ourselves to test whether our intention is pure to become a bodhisattva?
Oh yeah, you don't have to though, it's not. The intention is never pure. Intention, motivation is always mixed. One of the most helpful moments I've had in retreat was early on. I was doing one of my first 3-month retreats, and I had a teacher was Jack Cornfield, and I happened to walk past him as he was talking to another retreatant who was worried about, and he said, "Motivation's always mixed." And it was like this light that went off in my mind. I spent so much time worrying about whether my motivation was pure and well, of course it wasn't. It was like, oh, what a relief. I don't have to worry about that. I'm just schlepping along, kind of purifying as best I can and healing and growing and awakening as, one small step at a time. And I, still have this mix of motives. There's fear and there's still get caught by anger, and so those all arise. But there's a judo switch we're in now. Once we know about these practices, then the arising of these what are not so which are traditionally in Theravadan called defilements, or these problematic emotions, when they arise, we realize that's the opportunity to release them. So now we're kind of judoing them instead of problems. Whenever impurities, quotes, arise, then they can come into the healing light of awareness and be released. So they cease to be problems and become opportunities. And eventually you end up in pure perception, the recognition that everything's an expression of awareness and that it's just fine as it is. And, things just arise and self-liberate. No problem. So, so yeah, don't worry about whether you might have impurities. You do. And if you look, read the Buddha, the original Pali text about the Buddha, you get the idea that he was still running off old conditioning and karma. He just wasn't caught by it all. Yeah, thanks, Eddie.
Thank you, Lama. Kat asks, is the awareness, I'm not sure there might have been a little typo here, so I'm going to just try to read it. Is the awareness behind the mind the alaya vijnana? No, maybe that's a clear question and I didn't understand it. Is the awareness behind the mind the alaya vijnana?
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, these 8 consciousnesses stuff. I have dipped into that at various times, and I found it, this is just me personally, I haven't found it terribly helpful. I have Vijnana sometimes spoken of storehouse consciousness. I think awareness is better just thought of as no. The technical answer, I think, would be no. Rigpa, or awareness, is distinct from the Nilaya Vijnana, although there are relationships which I don't even pretend to understand. If you go into the super, super precise details, etc., the relationship of these things, I don't feel qualified to give a really good answer, except that they're distinct. And for our very practical purposes, what's really important for us is to recognize awareness, and to whatever extent we can during our practice, to hold the recognition that we are that awareness, and that all that arises to it can be released from is an actual release from the storehouse consciousness, and a purifying of it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that wonderful answer. And now we have one more from Mudit. When resting in awareness, what do you do with the? Do you label them first quickly with attention and come back?
Sorry,
to
I
awareness?
missed that, Ben. Could you repeat?
Sure. When resting in awareness, what do you do? What do you do with the mind activity? Do you label them first quickly with attention and come back to awareness?
Yeah, let's see. The labeling of mental arisings is a practice that's used and it can be very valuable in Vipassana. Many of us learned that and benefited from it. And it's a really useful tool at a certain stage, but this Dzogchen practice, which is, ideally has a foundation in things like Vipassana, at this stage, we're letting go all the uh, ways of reacting to whatever arises, and we simply allow it to rise into awareness, bringing as much alertness and clarity as we can to it, but not. Here's the distinction. In Vipassana, you focus awareness through attention into into an examination of what's arising, recognizing it precisely, labeling it as thought or fear or anger or joy, and and then you actually engage with it. That has value because you're doing it with awareness. But there's a step beyond that in which you recognize, and this is something you can see for yourself. Just we can rest as awareness, and these things will arise and decondition. And sometimes with practice, what you find is something like an emotion of fear will arise. And if you just rest there and hold it and allow it to rise into awareness, you can actually feel it begin to unravel and release and lose some of its charge before it dissolves. So this practice, there's no need to interfere or engage with the mind. In fact, there's the recognition that non-engagement with mental activity is what allows it to so-called self-liberate. So it's a different practice. Labeling is beautiful in its place, but here there's a step beyond it, just allowing everything to arise and release of itself. Let's see, I think we are coming to our end of our time together. So knowing, another one, this could be a discussion of itself, but one of the way it's really good to know that one of the ways the mind works is that what we intend for others, we tend to experience and strengthen in ourselves. So if we intend others to feel love and joy, we tend to feel love and joy too, and strengthen those qualities in ourselves. So based on that recognition, we do what can seem paradoxical if you don't have that understanding of how the mind works. We take a moment to offer any and everything we've gained from this practice, and offer it to share it with all conscious creatures. May they benefit, may all people and beings benefit from the practice, and from may all that we've learned and experienced and reflected on and open to and dedicated to, may that all serve the greatest good of all beings. Thanks so much for coming together and joining us all. I look forward to seeing some of you in the summer retreat, and enjoy your day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Lama Roger, and thank you all for joining our weekly town hall. Again, we have an Ask the Lama session this Wednesday evening, 7:30 to 9, and it's a really unique opportunity to ask questions to Lama Surya Das, and that's the whole session, is just question and answer. And then the one-day live virtual retreat, Saturday, June 5th. We continue to offer these town hall meetings freely, so please consider making a donation to the Dzogchen Foundation or becoming a member. The links are all there. Thank you all once again. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again, dear Lama Roger.